and include your story along with the photo you'd like to be included in the Hall of Fame, and I'll get you added. All right, let's jump into Ask Jesse. First question comes to us from Sandy. And Sandy asks, Jesse, how do you inspire someone to move on after a broken heart? My son's fiance changed her mind and left my son. He is devastated and said he wants to be alone, but it's been a month. I want my son healthy and ready to try again. He deserves happiness. He is amazing. That's a fantastic question, Sandy. And here's my first suggestion. There's a big difference between moving on and moving forward. And I think some people who are in this lost place, whether it's a broken heart, it's into the relationship, whether it is a death, and no one's to say that one loss is more significant than others. Loss is loss, and how we all process loss is going to be unique to each of us. And for some people, heartbreak might be more devastating to them than death. For some people, death might be more devastating. For some people, losing a job might be more devastating than death. So loss is this really unique experience for each of us individually, and there's a difference between moving on and moving forward. I think one of the things a lot of people will struggle with is this concept of moving on. Because if they're in that state of mind, and it's fairly early, it sounds like, for your son, where they're in that place where how can life be, how can I exist without this person, how can my life go forward, right? There's such an attachment to what was, and the idea of moving on would imply moving on without them, meaning that that person's no longer part of your life. And so what I find is moving forward is a much more effective way to speak to folks in this situation, because moving forward doesn't necessarily imply that you're leaving behind what you've lost. See, a lot of people have an attachment to that still, and because there's so much emotion about who they were with that. Whereas if we move forward, that's just implicit about taking a step, right? We move forward to open the front door. We move forward to do whatever it is we need to do. We always are having to move forward to grow, to evolve as people. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're evolving or growing without them. What it does mean is we're making forward progress towards whatever that is we want. And what your son wants at this time, I don't know, because I'm not talking to him. What I can coach you on as somebody who wants to help someone you love and care about is, one, I would approach it about him moving forward as opposed to moving on. He doesn't sound like he's ready to quite let go of that, and moving on can be really challenging. Two, moving forward, how? Where he's at and where you want him to be are going to be two different things. And part of your challenge with that is being able to accept that he is where he is and you are where you are, and where you want him to be and where he is are two different places. So nurturing his forward progress in a way that he is willing to make is going to be really paramount here. If we come in with people in this situation, we start making grand sweeping declarations, meaning that, oftentimes we'll immediately default to, you deserve so much better, you're all these amazing things, and it's wonderful, and it comes from the most loving place, right? And sometimes that's not what we're most receptive to, because when we're in that place of wherever your son is, he may feel like a failure. He may feel like he let people down. He may feel all sorts of things, right? And again, this is why this concept of moving forward is so important, because there's always a small step that he could take. There's always a small step he could take forward. And so rather than him moving on, move forward towards a goal or something that he's able to do right now. Maybe he likes to exercise, so that might be something he wants to do. Maybe he likes to read, so that might be something he can move forward on reading. Maybe there's a book you might read. Those kinds of things. I think those are the small steps that somebody needs to get the momentum underneath them to help them make really profound changes. The next question comes to us from Patricia. I hope that was valuable. And thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up, those of you who are sending them in. Next question comes to us from Patricia, and Patricia asks, I love Christmas, though it can be a very expensive time of year, especially buying loved ones presents. How do you enjoy Christmas on a budget? What I would suggest, Patricia, is not link your enjoyment to Christmas to money. Meaning that if we're going to define our enjoyment of Christmas on the amount of money we spend on other people, or the price tag that we give on a gift, it's going to make it really, really challenging to enjoy Christmas. Because inevitably in that scenario, we set ourselves up for really shorting ourselves for our possibility of enjoying it, right? there's all sorts of ways we could go about it. If we spend, let's say, $100 on Christmas gifts, but somebody else spends $150, does that diminish the quality of our gifts? If we spend $100 and we get 2 gifts, and somebody else spends $110 and gets 4 gifts, does that diminish our gifts because we've got less? I would encourage you to instead, if you really want to enjoy Christmas, define what an enjoyable Christmas will be for yourself, independent of money. So some things that might be would be something to the effect of, seeing my family smile, spending quality of time with each individual person, hanging out for 30 minutes 3 times a week with, these people, being able to tell stories together of past times, maybe looking at an old photo album together. Whatever that is for you, get clear on what an enjoyable Christmas would be for you, independent of money, and then set up a plan to do that, right? Set up a plan to do that. Because so many of us, here's the thing, so many of us don't put thought into what we want that or will make us feel enjoyable, what we want to get out of something. And we just kind of blindly stumble into it and let the fates decide and dictate how we're going to feel. How many presents do I get? Is it the right present? All those types of things. Instead of just being really clear on what it is we want and then going out and doing that, right? If we take responsibility for ourselves, meaning if our goal is to enjoy Christmas, and figure out what it's going to take for us to enjoy Christmas, we can typically make that happen. Does that make sense? I hope that was of value. So that's what we got for this week. Those are the questions that were submitted. Again, if you would like to have a question submitted for Ask Jesse, I always put the post up every Friday at around 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can put your questions in there, and then I will answer them Mondays right around this time. I hope